everyone, Decent60 here again, and we are back, this time for another review. This one is going to be over the LightCam Game 5.0 video capture. It is a very lightweight software that's supposed to be able to capture 120 frames per second. Now, whether it does or not really depends on a lot of things. One of them is actually how many frames per second you're getting in the game itself. Kind of like Fraps, this one will only capture how many frames you're outputting, so you won't be able to just automatically capture 120 if you're only getting 13. So now I did play around with this. I tried out a lot of settings, and I recorded a fairly lightweight game just to see how well it would actually perform with that. And I'm comparing it to my XSplit video game catcher. The XSplit video game catcher is much higher file size, with a LightCam Game 5 only being about 78 megabytes itself, while XSplit's in the 200 some odd megabyte. So we're going to do some comparison over that, and first we're going to actually show off the features for it. Alright, so once you open up, you got this beautiful little display here. This is actually the game recording software, and as you can see, you can go all the way from 10 frames per second, scrolling all the way around to about 120 frames per second. I got currently set to 60. You got on-screen display for basically your frames per second, how long you've been recording, everything else like that. Picture-in-picture for your webcam. You have different formats to choose from. It's a little bit harder to see those with just from what I found, but I really didn't notice any difference between them, really. Alright, and you got your ability to record audio, and which it took me a little bit to see the audio, or the microphone input is what I had a little bit difficulty finding, because it was blacked out on several things I tried to use, but it works just fine. Even has a little wave format so that you can test it out with, which works great. And sadly, it only has 16 bits at 480 hertz, but you know what? It's better than nothing. And you can even stream to Twitch or YouTube or stuff like that. You just need to have the proper information there. Now, switching from here, you can actually go to window capture mode. Now, when I when I did my main testing, I tried it out with both modes. I like the window capture just a smidge better. You can adjust your file size, your frame rates per second. Again, here's your audio. Basically all the same settings that you have here, just a little bit more simplified form. But you also have the little pointer method. So you can do like the left click, right click, and highlight the mouse. Unfortunately, it only appears once you hit the record, so everything but highlight the mouse. The mouse highlight comes afterwards in post-production. We've got yellow for left, blue for right. And you can also draw on here live. So you can do that, and you can just leave it. So nice little smiley face right there. And you can leave it, or you can just hit the little back button there, and it clears it right off. I do have to say that if you use the face drawing, or the little drawing on there, you cannot, your webcam does freeze in place. I've tried that many different ways, many different times, and once you get done, you instantly can review it. As you can see there's the red highlight for the mouse and all that. It looks good, and it shows you even the past production and everything else like that. So really, it's not too bad. And then it has, you have your big in-depth picture or settings there. Nothing too spectacular. A few of them are blanked out for whatever reason. I don't know why. Like, you can't have the on-screen display, but yeah. So that's the basic overview of that. And now we'll get on to basically the performance of it. Alright, so on the Steam page, it has system requirements. And if you take a look at that, it's extremely basic. And I mean that in the most simplistic manner. that it supports Windows XP. It has a non-descripted 2 GHz dual-core CPU or better, as recommended. 25 gigs of storage space, which I don't know why, because it's only a 75 megabyte file, or 5 gigabytes for bare minimum. Graphics is 1 gigabyte. 1 gigabyte on your graphics card, which any modern card has at least 2. So you're pretty much good there, right? Well, that's when it gets a little bit tricky. You see, when you actually go to the description and read through all that, it has a separate recommended specs for it, and basic and recommended. And quite honestly, they are drastically different. Before it said just any dual core, well, it's listing a quad core i5 with a, all i7s are quad cores, so you're getting a very different perspective on here, and they really should update that system requirement page because it makes it look like a basic system can handle it. Now, I am running an AMD octa-core CPU, as in comparison to their i5 that they mentioned there. My graphics, however, is just a step down from the Radeon R9 270K, sorry, where I have an R7 265K. But that's not really going to make too much of a difference, because in all my testing, the GPU utilization never rose above 40%. So I wasn't actually using too much of my GPU. So it's not that it's going to be graphics card intensive for all that. However, my CPU skyrocketed to 100%. And with that, we also experienced a lot of interesting things that happened while recording. And both during using the game recording and the screen recording, there was a lot of lag and stuttering on video playback. Recording it wise, there was just a little bit of flickering with the on-screen display, but nothing too big. The game I tested it on was Town Sim, which is a very basic and minimalistic game, not very intensive. It's a Adobe Flash game type game, and so it is not terribly hard on your CPU and GPU. But while recording that, I've noticed that my audio will, if I use the game recorder, my audio, not only the vocal recording through the microphone, but also the sound capturing was off by about 5 to 15 seconds, depending on how long it's been going. So if I let it going for a long period of time, stopped it, and then started back up, it came to about 15 seconds. But even so, 5 seconds off can be a hassle for those who just want something to record and instantly upload, or record and present. Now, if you have, like me, I use a video editing software, I can adjust the 5 seconds. I can actually just remove or delete or unlink the tracks, scoot the audio down just a little bit, and line them up perfectly. Not that big of a deal. But for those who don't have that capabilities or know-how or time for that matter, that's a big issue right there. Another thing that actually happened while recording it is that it was dropping frames. And I don't mean that the game itself wasn't also rendering the same amount of frames. When I play games on Steam, I always keep the frame counter up in the top corner just to make sure I am getting good frames for either recording or just, whether it's actual lag or if my CPU is dropping frames. As if you're getting lag, you shouldn't be dropping any frames like that. It should jump up high and then come back to the same normal, but not actually drop down to 2 to 3 frames per second. With this one, Town of Sam, I normally get around 30-35 frames per second. While recording, I was getting around 28. The program says I was averaging around 28 frames per second, so that's not too bad. However, there are times where it dropped all the way down to 10 frames, even 5 frames at one point, and I have no idea why. When I used the game capture mode, my CPU utilization was always 100%. Sometimes some cores would be about 96, but overall it was 100% CPU utilization. When I used the window capture, which is a little bit odd because it should be the other way around, but when I used the window capture, it actually was around 86 to 92%. Alright, now, not that really great either way, but it is still a big difference. In comparison, if I actually use like XSplit to record something, XSplit usually I have it set to use higher utilization. In fact, the same codex encoder that I had for this game is a very similar one that I use for XSplit, which should be graphics encoding. So it should be pulling more from my graphics card than actual CPU. However, it did not do that. As I said, it was, still getting poor frame rates, and CPU or GPU, sorry, utilization was around 48% at the highest. Kind of averaging around 25 to 30, which is about what XSplit uses. The difference is that the CPU utilization for the same game, Town of Salem, is around 20% with XSplit. That's recording, same resolution and everything. So there is a huge, I want to say kind of like a memory problem or optimization needing, but yeah, there's something extremely wrong with that. However, one thing I do not like about it, given that I'm using an AMD processor, it may be more optimized for Intel because they do better with single core number computations rather than AMD. AMD is, especially with the 8 core, can do a little bit better with multi-thread than single core. However, that can explain that. However, there is no way to do with a picture-in-picture that you saw on there. That's only webcam. So you can only activate webcam or another emulator of a webcam. So you can use XSplit to play a video right there, and that's about it. Now, I haven't tried streaming with it just because it's more of a hassle, and if it's recording poorly like this, the streaming is either going to be exactly the same or worse. So I'm going to go with the exact same, and right now it is not that great. If you had a very high-end system, this thing may work marvelously for you, and it would be a better deal than trying to pay for like an XSplit system or XSplit program for months upon months. Considering I bought it on Steam for around $5, it's $20 normal, and the license is unlimited use with ability to use on a portable secondary system such as a laptop for no additional charge. However, it's only beyond that. Beyond that, you're in violation of their terms and service, and they can remove your account or remove the product from your account. But yeah, overall, this program has a lot of potential, and it looks great. It's very lightweight in terms of file size, both when downloading and how much RAM it uses. I don't believe I used way too much. I don't think it topped more than 2 gigs at most while recording. And the file size of the recording is actually very comparable to XSplit. A 27-minute game, or 20, something like that. It was a 27 some odd minute game on LightCam brought in about 500 megs of file size, whereas XSplit, I did a 37-minute game that was 612. So 10 minutes apart, you know, give or take, they're very comparable. So I would assume that these two would be almost identical for that wise. The compression rate, or I mean for compression quality, the quality of the videos when it wasn't dropping frames was actually really good. Like I said, in comparison with XSplit, it is the compression quality was great, so the picture quality was also great. So I wasn't complaining about that. The only thing is it needs a better CPU optimization. It may be using like a I kind of don't want to say like Fraps, or it may be piggybacking off of another program that leases out their engine for all that. But yeah, I had little delays in like I said, I had delays in audio to video. They weren't syncing up. They were losing sync, and sometimes if the video progressed for a long period of time, the syncing would have a much farther gap. And that part is where it really starts to hurt when trying to rate a game or something like that. I am going to say that this, for complete disclosure, is that Town of Salem is a DirectX 9, not a DirectX 10 or a DirectX 11 game. So it may be that this program is more optimized for DirectX 10 or DirectX 11. Regardless, however, it should be performing pretty much about the same overall. So this is my little take on it. I'm sorry I don't really have too many visuals to throw in here. I mean, I can throw an audio clip of me counting down with the timer on the screen and showing a one video I had 20-second delay. After about, I did that probably about 15 minutes into the video. While I was dead in Town of Salem, there's a counter that counts down the day and nighttime cycle, and I counted from 20 down to 0, and there's about a 20-second delay from time I started before the next day started. So on the video it showed the next day, and then my audio came in about 20 seconds later. Alright, something like that with a progressively expanding gap in the syncing is a little harder to balance out and a little harder to fix, but if you have the right video equipment, or video processing equipment, editing equipment I should say, not processing, but if you have the right one of that, the right know-how, and enough time and patience, you can cut those down and move them over however much you really need. It's just a pain, and I used to have to do that when I was syncing up my audio from I had a different way of recording this before I bought a webcam and stuff like that. So I had a little bit of difference syncing up audio from my microphone with my webcam because there was a delay with the webcam being broadcast. And it's not hard to sync it up. It is a pain, and it can get a little bit bothersome for some. And now this is going on for about almost 20 minutes now. I'm really sorry for making this a long video, but there were some major points that I wanted to hit off, and trying to give my personal thoughts and opinions on this. But as I said before, LightCam Game 5.0 live stream with up to 120 frames per second is, if you got a nice system, especially with an Intel build, you're probably going to do great with it. If it's an i7 and you got 16 gigs of RAM, and an SSD hard drive or M.2 hard drive, if you have all that, this thing's probably going to be better for you, and it'd be a much cheaper solution than using with XSplit. However, if you're not if you don't have that much, and you have a basic system kind of like what I have, this thing is just going to keep tearing up your actual system. It, like I said, it used 100% of GPU or CPU, and I don't see a reasoning for that when XSplit itself, which has a Fraps engine side of it, it barely used over 20% for this game. And that was one reason why I chose Town of Salem. It's a very lightweight game, and it kind of gives a representation of what you can expect with a heavier game. Like I said, if you have a much more robust CPU and GPU, this video will probably be pointless. You'll probably get the same, same performance out of both. Just the only difference is that with XSplit you can add multiple videos inside of it rather than just your webcam and what you're recording. You can actually have a background video playing in it, and then have your buddy sitting on the other side talking, and you do a review that way. So there are some perks to getting an actual good software. Not to say it, and yes, I am saying that the LightCam right now is not a good software. Just because even on this machine, it should be performing moderately well, with the audio syncing just fine. When I had the webcam hooked up, however, the audio was completely off with the video of the webcam, doing things with the screen, such as if I wanted to move the screen around. I'd say if I wanted to capture a region here on this monitor, and then I wanted to move it all the way over to another monitor, the webcam would freeze while doing that. Now that could be just because of my system, or it could be because the program is written that way. The other thing that's kind of annoying is that if you move your window to the recording window on the video, or the way you can record screen and stuff like that, the webcam does not move when you do that. So if you move that screen over too far, your webcam can be cut off. And really, that webcam should be staying in a relative locked position as you move the thing around. Now the webcam can be moved around. In fact, I shot a video and I thought I was recording audio. Apparently my microphone wasn't being picked up, but I did an imitation of me playing Pong with my own webcam. But I digress from that. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of this video. What if you actually used LightCam 5 or LightCam Game 5, and let me know your experiences on it if you have any. And yeah, we can discuss that, or we can go from there. I am trying to find other videos or other recording software like this that is cheap or free that would work. That's not like the mainstream like LightCam, or not LightCam, but like Fraps or oh shoot, there's a dozen of them. Bandicam is another one, which I believe is actually bought out or closed down. There's Wire, which is a very high expensive professional recording equipment, and it works great, by the way. I've actually used it before, and it does work great. It's very much, it needs a better system. It needs a dedicated system to record off of, because there is so much that you can do with it. But I digress from that, because it deserves its own little video. But yeah, I'm looking for other things that are not other popular. Even the capture devices, they have their own software. Now I don't want to talk about those. I want to try to find something that everyone can enjoy, that's different and out there, that may work better for a system. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed the video. As always, until next time guys, take it easy.